we think perfected a little kind of literary music jam session. Last summer when I was wrapping up the book and getting done with edits and everything, beginning to think about this thing called marketing your book, I thought about music, and in the story, music, the main character, Zeke, he's a country music fan, and it's set in Tennessee, and so I thought it would be kind of nice if on my website I could have a song that might kind of capture the theme of the book, or the themes. And so I went across the street and asked Andrew if he would read it, and if he liked it, to maybe do a song. And luckily he was game to try it, and he ended up really liking the book, thankfully. And not only did he do one song, but he ended up doing an entire album of songs. So what could have been a very risky proposition for both of us, if he had hated the book or I had hated the music that he made, could have been very awkward for years to come. But it's wonderful to see the themes of the book represented in music. So I thought we'd actually kind of start with a song just to sort of put us in the mood a little bit of the book. So you want to do Jackie and Me? Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this, like you said, I read the book, and then I kind of, each section that I finished, I kind of just got inspired by a passage or something, or a story, or a character, and then I write a song. And so this first one's called Jackie and Me, and it's about the main character, Ezekiel, and his first love, Jackie, when they were in high school. And it's kind of about when you're young, kind of young love, that simple time when everything's kind of just, easy.
Easy, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
And when you meet Zeke in the story, they are divorced, and Jackie has just remarried. So, just to give you a little flavor.
Oh, Mama said, gonna be a strong man, gonna be a lover. When lightning strikes, get up, get down, I'm feeling alright now. Oh, in the backseat of Tommy's Buick, it's all we dreamed of, and I think it's real. So get up, get down, I'm feeling alright now. Oh, me and you, we're dancing in the starlight, where everything's alright. Oh, me and you, we're dancing in the starlight, where everything's alright. Oh, and the day before the homecoming game, Jackie and I walked through the rain. She changed my life for always right now. Jackie said, she smiled at me, she took my hand so easily, that I will love you always right now. Yeah. A siren car ride through the schoolyard, into the hospital where I kissed her. So get up, get down, I'm feeling alright now. Oh, light is fading, I reach for her hand. It's the only feeling that I know. So get up, get down, I'm feeling alright now. Oh, me and you, we're dancing in the starlight, where everything's alright. Oh, me and you, we're dancing in the starlight, where everything's alright. And the day before the homecoming game, Jackie and I walked through the rain. She changed my life for always right now. Jackie said, she smiled at me, she took my hand so easily, that I
the day before the homecoming, Jackie and I walked through the rain. She changed my life for always right now. Jackie said, she smiled at me, took my hand so easily, that I will love you always right now.
It was remarkable. You know, I'm a writer. I don't try to do other kinds of art. I can't paint. I can't draw. I really can't play. I can play one song on the piano and that's it. And so to have, it's called Seamist. I played it at my 8th grade piano recital. Thank you very much. No, it's an actual song. So to hear, you know, the book kind of made into music, it was just amazing. So the book, I'll talk just for a second about what the book is and why I wrote it. It's about 3 generations of the Cooper family of Clayton, Tennessee. And Clayton is a little town 60 miles east of Memphis. And it's inspired by my dad's hometown, which is Pocahontas, Tennessee. And I would have used the real Pocahontas, except I needed, you can see on the cover, a lake. This is Ezekiel and his twin brother Carter here on the cover. And I needed a lake within easy walking distance of the family's house. And I couldn't do that if I was truthful to the real geography. So that's why I used Clayton. And I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, 8th generation Southern on my mom's side. But my father's family is from West Tennessee. And I grew up predominantly in Oklahoma, but would go back to Pocahontas every Christmas and a part of every summer. And it was really where I think I'm an only child and was raised, you know, by a single mom for the most part. It was one of the few times when I really felt part of a larger family and had a sense of community and I think a connection to the history in my dad's hometown. And when my grandmother died when I was in my early 20s, not only did we lose her, but we also lost the place because all of her children had moved far away in some cases, and they sold her house, and so there was no reason to go to Pocahontas. So it was a double loss, and I think as I worked on this book for 10 years, and I think I started it when I was about 30, I think one of my primary early motivations was to kind of try to capture the town and the place and to memorialize it. And in a lot of ways, the character of Cousin Georgia in the story is really inspired by my grandmother. And I think it's kind of a love letter to her. And yesterday, we were in Memphis on the weekend, and I drove over from Memphis. Well, actually, I was down in Greenwood, Mississippi, drove from Memphis to Greenwood, Mississippi, and then from Greenwood out to here and made a detour through Pocahontas yesterday and went by my grandmother's grave, and it was really kind of surreal to think about all those years going up and, you know, being in her house, which always, she had an entire ham in the oven and a fresh baked, you know, skillet full of cornbread every time I walked through the door. And then to be coming back and having this book is really, I just said remarkable, but I'm at the tail end of the tour, y'all, so I'm afraid I'll have to say it's pretty surreal and exciting. I have done a bunch of readings in the Bay Area where I'm from, and one of my hooks in the Bay Area was to give moon pies out to attendees because they don't really know what they are on the West Coast. So it was very interesting. I have 3 daughters, 13, 9, and 5, and I had my little 5-year-old with a big basket handing them out to people, and they just thought it was, you know, this, wow, what is this? And they're a little finicky about their food, so half the people won't even eat it, but they just kind of look at it like this object of southernness that they're being exposed to. So the story, I mentioned it's 3 generations, so you get to know the matriarch Lillian, and then the main character is her son Ezekiel. And when you meet Zeke, he's 42, and he is grieving the mysterious drowning of his twin brother, which has happened 10 years prior. He has been kind of stuck in this extended period of grief, lost his wife because of it, and she has just remarried. He's kind of distanced from his 2 daughters, and he was the kid everybody thought was going to get out of this little town and be the first in the family to go to college, and he's done none of this, and in fact is living in a converted shed behind his mother's house, working on the line at the elevator plant in the nearby town, and so is kind of a failure in pretty much every way he could be at this point. And Zeke, the remarriage of his wife, which happens just as the book is opening, kind of pushes him over the edge, and he decides he has to get out of Clayton, and he throws his very old, stinky dog into the truck, and the dog is his one connection with his brother, was his brother's dog, and he grabbed The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which was a book he and his brother used to read together, and he just starts driving east, not really knowing where he's going. And he lands in Charlottesville, Virginia, in horse country outside Charlottesville, at a cousin's farm. And this farm, Lacey Farms, is where he spent a semester when he was 18. He got into the University of Virginia on full scholarship. And it was one of the best 4 months of his life, and then got pulled back to Clayton because of an incident with his brother. And his brother needed him, and so Zeke left school and never returned. So 42-year-old Zeke lands back at Lacey Farms, and it's there that he begins to feel abuse once again. And there's an attractive neighbor at a close farm, so he begins to have a little romance as well. And he's telling you the story in the first and the third part of the book, and then his mother, Lillian, narrates the middle section. And we all know with any family story, if you don't hear from the mother, then you haven't really heard the whole story. And Zeke tells you in part 1 that he and his mother haven't really had an extended conversation in 25 years. And you get a sense that he's really holding his mother accountable for what he believes was a sin she committed against Carter, Zeke's brother. And Zeke really is continuing to blame his mom for his failure, some of his failures. And he has 3 sisters and an ex-wife, and they are all poking at him, trying to get him to talk and to get over it. But Lillian has her own story to tell, and she's got a life-threatening illness when the story begins, and is really desperate to reconcile with Zeke. So I thought I would read a section from Lillian's part, and it's a section that takes place, the story starts in the 1940s and goes up to 1985. 1985 is present day in the life of the story. And the section that I like to read is when the boys are very young, not even 2, an outbreak of measles sweeps through Clayton, and all 5 of the Cooper kids get it, but only Carter gets a really severe case of it and ends up having very high fever, which sends him, he has to go to the hospital, and he has all of these complications, goes into a coma, and ends up with not being quite the same after this. And this is the late 1940s. Nobody really knows what's going on with him, but his mother is convinced that something is wrong. He's not talking in the same way that Zeke is. So she has procured money to get into Memphis, to take the boys in by train. She's gotten an appointment. Her family physicians referred her to a specialist in Memphis, and she's taking the boys on the train. So I'm going to start there. We passed Audubon Park with its lawns like green velvet and its pure blue lake. The doctor's office was in a plain brick building with a sign on the door that read, "Dr. Christopher Allen, please ring bell." Before ringing anything, I took my time straightening the seams on my stockings, smoothing my hair back into its bun, and wiping the boys' faces. I guess we'll do. Ezekiel and Carter stood in front of me, hands in their pockets, eyes cast downward. "I don't want to go, Mama," Carter said. The worry in his voice was heavy. "Me either," Zeke said. Let's go to the park and get milkshakes like you promised and ride the train again. We had traveled so far, but I felt the same urge as the boys. Run, now. What's this? The Cooper boys aren't feeling scared, are they? I placed a hand under each of their chins, tilting them upward so they had to look at me. Where is my Superman? Where is my Captain Marvel? Anybody get scared in there? What word can we think of to say? The boys looked at each other. Don't be scared, offered Ezekiel. That's a sentence. I'm looking for one word, a magic word, Shazam. This got a smile. Ezekiel seemed surprised that I knew the favorite saying of one of their heroes, a result of comic books being the only reading material in the outhouse. I rang the bell. When the door opened, the three of us walked in, Carter tucked between his brother and me. Dr. Allen was a tall, thin man. In a too loud voice, he told the boys to stay in the waiting room with a pale-faced nurse while he and I talked. The office smelled of leather, rubbing alcohol, and cigar smoke. Dr. Grady sent me your son's medical information, Mrs. Cooper, but I'd like you to tell me more about the case of rubeola he contracted as a small child. I told him how Carter woke up in the middle of the night screaming, his little body burning to the touch. He spent 2 weeks in the hospital. Before he went into the coma, all they did for him was put that poor baby in ice bath after ice bath. I never want to see ice anywhere near my boy again, Dr. Allen. I can tell you that much. I can still picture the way Carter looked at me when the ice water touched his baby's skin. And the boys are about 5 right now in this scene. The doctor folded his long, skinny fingers on the top of his desk. I'd like to run some tests on Carter. What kind? I won't be using any instruments on him if that's what you're at. He patted my hand, the pressure staying a second longer than necessary. I drew my hand back as if he'd slapped it. Don't worry, Mrs. Cooper, it'll be fine. I doubted that anything was going to be fine. Carter must have been in that office for over an hour. Ezekiel kept asking me what the doctor was doing to his brother. I said he was giving him a special kind of test. What kind of test? I want to take it too. I shooed him over to the toy box and told him to play. Finally, the door opened and Carter came out. He ran straight into my arms and said, "Don't like tests." I kissed him and looked over at the doctor. He nodded for me to come back in the office. Before closing the door behind us, he asked the nurse to bring us some coffee. I sat in a red leather chair across from Dr. Allen's desk. He ignored me while he finished writing notes in a file. The nurse brought coffee. She poured 2 cups, never looking at me or the doctor. The sweat began to drip behind the knees of my crossed legs. Dr. Allen put his thick black pen down and asked if I wanted cream or sugar. I shook my head. He handed me the delicate china cup and saucer. It was his mother's china, he said. His wife hadn't taken a shine to it, so he brought it to the office. What do you think of it? Beautiful. I took a sip, the coffee's bitter taste flowering against my tongue. My hand shook just the slightest bit, and I tried to quiet the scared inside me. I didn't know how much longer I could sit there before I tore out of the chair, grabbed him by the lapels of his white coat, and demanded to know what was wrong with my boy. Are your sons identical twins? Strangers asked the question at least once a week. From a distance, they looked identical, but up close, you saw Carter's eyes were brown like his daddy's, and Ezekiel's were blue like mine. Their build was different, too. Broader through the chest than his brother, Carter had always been a good 5 to 10 pounds heavier and a couple of inches taller than Ezekiel. No, sir, they're fraternal. He took off his glasses, setting them on the desk. Fascinating. I'm assuming your other son has exhibited normal brain function. He hasn't shown any of the signs that give you cause for concern about Carter? I tried to untangle his words. Normal brain function, cause for concern, a question about Ezekiel. He asked it again. Did Ezekiel appear normal? Ezekiel didn't get that high fever with the rubeola like Carter. Zeke already knows how to read. Good, good. That's a blessing for you. In my experience, God rarely closes one door without opening another, even if it's only a crack of light shining through. Dr. Allen fancied himself a preacher as well. Please tell me what the test showed. He drained the last of the coffee from his cup before setting it back on the saucer. The sound of china meeting china, a soft clink in the small room. The window behind him opened onto the street below. Footsteps pushing off the sidewalk and cars honking made me long to be outside again, to escape this room and this man. Mrs. Cooper, in my years of experience with dealing with children like Carter, there is no easy way to tell a parent of my diagnosis. In the early years of my practice, I tried to soften the blow with kind words and hope, but I've learned that I have never been wrong about a child's potential and that it serves neither the parent nor the child to paint the diagnosis with a gentle brush. So I will be blunt. I believe the encephalitis Carter suffered as a result of the measles affected his brain, preventing it from developing in a normal fashion. Your son is what we call a retarded child. It is my belief that he will never be capable of learning to read or write or lead a life of his own without your supervision. The thought of words damaging a person had never occurred to me before that day. Guns, knives, balled fists, those could hurt you. Words were only pieces of breath strung together. I stared at the desk in front of me, noticing how the granite pen holder and nameplate engraved with gold letters were perfectly lined up beside each other. Not a speck of dust covered the blotter or any other part of the desktop. I imagine the rest of Dr. Allen's life must be just as orderly. No messy, retarded children at home to deal with, no tired wife sweating over an old stove making dinner. The small photo on his desk showed a smiling wife wearing an evening gown with flowers in her upswept hair. Do you have children, Dr. Allen? A look of surprise crossed his face. No, Mrs. Cooper, I don't. Let me ask you this, I said, the question forming on my lips as I spoke. If you could choose between having no children or having a retarded child, Dr. Allen, which would you choose? He pushed his chair away from the desk and came around to my side, mumbling that he knew I must be very distressed. His arm snaked around my shoulders and landed near my right breast. I shook the arm off with enough force to slam it into the wall. He winced and retreated to his seat, though he didn't sit, just placed his hands on the back of the chair. We do not get to choose these things, Mrs. Cooper. God decides. Our job is to accept his decisions. Chicken, I thought. He could hide behind his God. You'll need to discuss the issue of institutionalization with your husband sooner rather than later. This will only get more difficult as your son grows older. I can recommend several in the state if you'd like. I walked out of that office without saying a word, grabbing my boys in the waiting room as I went. The nurse called to us in the hallway. Mrs. Cooper, there's the matter of the bill, and we need to schedule your next appointment. Her heavy white shoes squeaked across the wood floor behind us. Carter looked up at me and shook his head. What choice did I have? He was my baby boy. I stopped, took the money out of my wallet, and gave it to her without a word. The boys and I walked fast to the front entrance. We were through the doors, and then the outside rushed into my lungs, filling them with fresh, clean air. The sun shone down on us, and I was grateful for its heat. This was the way things were supposed to be. The doctor's office almost disappeared into the summer haze rising from the sidewalk. A pharmacy sat at the end of the block, and I took the boys inside for a real restaurant lunch. They sat at the counter and had chocolate shakes, cheeseburgers, and French fries. I watched them devour it all. Matching brown mustaches formed above their top lips. Ezekiel dripped ketchup down the front of his nice shirt, and I didn't say a word. Carter kept stealing fries off of his brother's plate, laughing every time. It was the sweetest hymn. That's that scene. Shall we have maybe Lost Saints? Yeah. Lost Saints now. Yeah. So this is the title track from Lost Saints of Tennessee, which kind of captures what the theme of what you were just listening to, I think.
I'm sitting here counting down the days. I fell in love but I lost my way on, and I think I'll see you soon. I had a dream but it's never shown. took everything that I've ever known in you, see you soon. You're giving me chills, and you're all I wanna feel tonight. Come on, I'm sinking like a stone, so take my hand, don't you let go, bring me home. I'm picking a bouquet of dogwoods, giving you all the love you should have. So meet me by the river tonight, cast the sins away we could have. I'm looking to the heavens for a choir of angels to sing we would have. And are we all that we can be, or are we lost here in Tennessee? Remember Mama as she came and went. Remember life as it was heaven sent. And now I wanna feel brand new. We shed a tear as we fall from grace. I learned to love before I leave this place. And now I know I'm here to see you soon. You're giving me chills, and you're all I wanna feel tonight. Come on, I'm sinking like a stone, so take my hand, don't you let go, and bring me home. I'm picking a bouquet of dogwoods, giving you all the love you should have. So meet me by the river tonight, cast the sins away and we could have. I'm looking to the heavens for a choir of angels to sing we would have. And are we all that we can be, or are we lost here in Tennessee? And are we all that we can be, or are we lost here in Tennessee?